Daniel chapter 11, 1 to 19. Introduction. When the world panics, God presides. Daniel 11 is a living testimony that history bends to the hand of God. What we see as chaotic headlines, God sees as a finished script. It's an ultimate evidence that while kings plot in secret and empires clash in the open, a sovereign hand directs the flow of time. Here we witness the king of the north and the king of the south locked in an endless cycle of war. But here is the revelation. While the world is panicking, God is presiding. Even the shifting ambitions of kings across generations move to fit perfectly into the sequence God has already spoken. Everything, absolutely everything, unfolds according to his sovereign timeline. When you realize that history is merely the outworking of God's plan, you stop fearing the fight and start trusting the director of the future. From silver strength to bronze power, verses 1 to 4, the anchor before the storm. Verse 1. And in the first year of Darius the Mede, I took my stand to support and protect him. This verse takes us back to the moment the Babylonian Empire fell and the Medo-Persian Empire began. It serves as a powerful reminder that every ending in history is actually a new beginning in God's plan. The speaker here is the angelic messenger, likely Gabriel. The phrase took my stand is military language showing a deliberate, active position of defense in the spiritual realm. Though this verse looks small compared to the cunning tactics, terrifying wars, and rhythmic endless cycle of conflict between the kings of the north and the kings of the south that follow, this protection of Darius represents a beautiful transition to show that God is in total control. It proves that the battlefield of the future is managed by the same hand that anchored the peace of the past. Gabriel didn't wait for a crisis to intervene. He took a stand from day one. This proves that God is proactive, not reactive. He secures your foundation before the fight even begins. The wealth and the war. Verse 2. Now then, I tell you the truth. 3 more kings will appear in Persia, and then a 4th who will be far richer than all the others. When he has gained power by his wealth, he will stir up everyone against the kingdom of Greece. The phrase, I tell you the truth, is a message stamped with divine authority. This verse serves as a historical bridge between the fall of the Persian Empire, represented as the chest and arms of silver in the vision of the great statue in Daniel 2, and the rise of Greece, represented as the belly and thighs of bronze. Following Cyrus the Great, the prophecy identifies 3 more Persian monarchs who shaped the empire's destiny: Cambyses, Smerdis, and Darius. However, the prophecy focuses on the 4th, Xerxes, called Ahasuerus in the book of Esther, who surpassed his predecessors in lavishness and power. Xerxes inherited a vast kingdom of 127 provinces and a massive treasury from his father Darius, but he also inherited a bitter generational grudge against the Grecians. His father Darius had suffered a humiliating defeat at the Battle of Marathon in 490 BC, failing in his attempt to crush Athens and bring the Greek mainland under Persian control. Legend holds that Darius was so consumed by this loss that he ordered a servant to whisper to him at every meal, "Master, remember the Athenians." Growing up in the shadow of this obsession, Xerxes, son of Darius, viewed the conquest of Greece not just as a political expansion but as a personal mission to restore his family's honor. To resolve this grievance, Xerxes used his enormous fortune to assemble a 1,000,000-man army drawn from over 40 nations. This massive campaign led to 3 pivotal battles. 1. The Battle of Thermopylae, 480 BC. 2. The Naval Battle of Salamis, 480 BC. 3. The Battle of Plataea, 479 BC. Despite Persia's overwhelming financial and numerical superiority, Xerxes was ultimately defeated. His failure proved that while wealth can buy an army, it cannot buy a victory against God's sovereign timeline. This crushing defeat crippled Persian influence and set a stage for the global shift toward the Hellenistic era, that is, the era of the Greeks and the rise of Alexander the Great. From success to succession, the rise and reach of the irresistible force. Verses 3-4. The great conqueror, building a legacy of strength. Verse 3. Then a mighty king will appear who will rule with his power and do as he pleases. This marks the entrance of Alexander the Great. In just over a decade, he dismantled the Persian Silver Empire and established the Bronze Empire of Greece. Alexander was so dominant that he did as he pleased, never losing a single battle. Though he reportedly wept because he felt that there was no more worlds to conquer, his power was ultimately subject to a divine expiration date. Beyond the horizon, preparing the next generation for greatness. Verse 4. After he has appeared, his empire will be broken up and parceled out toward the four winds of heaven. It will not go to his descendants, nor will it have the power he exercised, because his empire will be uprooted and given to others. The prophecy that the empire would be parceled out toward the four winds of heaven indicates it would be split in all directions: north, south, east, and west. This prophecy was fulfilled following Alexander's sudden death at the age of 32. This is a stunning, accurate prophecy. Although Alexander had a son, Alexander IV, and a half-brother, Philip III Aridius, both were murdered in the wars of succession, wiping out his bloodline and leaving his family with zero power. On Alexander's deathbed, when asked who should inherit his kingdom, Alexander reportedly said, "To the strongest." This triggered decades of civil war, eventually dividing the empire among his four generals: Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. The power he exercised vanished and the empire was uprooted, never to be a single united world power again. The rivalry of the two crowns. Verses 5-6. The rise of the rival empires. Verse 5. The king of the south will become strong, but one of his commanders will become even stronger than he and will rule his own kingdom with great power. This verse records a massive shift in world power. Following the death of Alexander, his empire was eventually divided. Ptolemy I, king of the south, secured Egypt and became very strong. However, his former ally and commander, Seleucus I Nicator, rose to even greater prominence. This marks the beginning of the long-standing rivalry between the Ptolemaic and the Seleucid dynasties. The marriage treaty and the deadly betrayal. Verse 6. After some years, they'll become allies. The daughter of the king of the south will go to the king of the north to make an alliance, but she'll not retain her power, and he and his power will not last. In those days, she will be handed over together with a royal escort and her father and the one who supported her. For decades, the Ptolemaic kingdom, the south, and the Seleucid empire, the north, were locked in a tug-of-war for power. Israel, the beautiful land, was caught right in the middle, serving as a strategic battleground that passed back and forth as these pagan kings fought for dominance. After generations of war, Ptolemy II, king of the south and son of Ptolemy I, attempted to buy peace by sending his daughter Bernice Syra to marry Antiochus II, king of the north. To force this treaty into effect, Antiochus II took these blood-cold measures. 1. He ruthlessly exiled his first wife Laodice and disinherited her children to clear the way for a new bloodline. 2. He replaced his family with a political transaction, marrying Bernice specifically for a staggering dowry of Egyptian gold. She arrived with a massive Egyptian escort, a mobile treasury of wealth and elite protectors that Antiochus intended to use as a strategic anchor to stabilize his own power. 3. He fathered a son with Bernice, intending to use his newborn as a political instrument to unite the kingdoms and erase the inheritance of his first family. Antiochus II remained faithful to Bernice primarily out of fear for his father-in-law's massive Egyptian army. However, this peace was fragile. When Ptolemy II died of old age in the south, Bernice's political shield vanished. Antiochus II felt he no longer had to honor the agreement, and so he discarded the treaty and attempted to reconcile with his first wife Laodice. However, in a fury of retaliation, the vengeful queen Laodice struck back with terrifying precision. 1. She poisoned Antiochus II, removing the man who had discarded her. 2. She assassinated Queen Bernice and her infant son, ensuring the throne remained solely for her own children. 3. She slaughtered the entire Egyptian escort, erasing every supporter of the alliance and every witness to her coup. The phrase, she will be handed over together with a royal escort and her family and the one who supported her, highlights her total abandonment. The death of her father Ptolemy II in Egypt removed Bernice's political protection, effectively handing her over to the mercy of her enemies. Consequently, her supporters, that is, her husband, her infant son, and her entire Egyptian security, were all betrayed and slaughtered in a single massacre orchestrated by Laodice and her conspirators. There was no one left alive to avenge on Bernice's death. Queen Bernice had the most powerful father, the most influential husband, and the elite security team that money could provide. Yet, every one of them failed her. This tragedy stands as a powerful reminder for us today. People may escort you to a new season, but only God can sustain you through it. The vengeful branch. Verses 7 to 9. Strength born from struggle. Rise of the avenger. Verse 7. One from her family line will arise to take her place. He will attack the forces of the king of the north and enter his fortress. He will fight against them and be victorious. The story did not end with the tragedy of Bernice's death. Back in Egypt, her brother Ptolemy III Euergetes ascended the throne to balance the scales of justice. He crushed the north, captured their strongest fortresses, and defeated the forces of Laodice's son. Treasures taken, triumph secured. Verse 8. He will also seize their gods, their metal images, and their valuable articles of silver and gold and carry them off to Egypt. For some years, he will leave the king of the north alone. Ptolemy III returned to Egypt as a victorious conqueror, carrying off a staggering 4,000 talents of gold, 40,000 talents of silver, and 2,500 precious idols. This is divine restoration. Ptolemy III reclaimed the wealth and honor that the king of the north had effectively stolen from his bloodline through the betrayal and murder of his sister Bernice. Every piece of the dowry and the gold she had carried into the north was now forcibly returned to the south. For some years, Ptolemy III would leave the king of the north, Seleucus II, alone. History confirms this divine pause. The retreat of pride, verse 3. Then the king of the north will invade the realm of the king of the south, but will retreat to his own country. During this time of divine pause, around 240 BC, Seleucus II, the king of the north, attempted a bold counter-invasion of Egypt. However, his campaign failed due to loss of fleet of his ships in a storm, lack of supplies, and poor strategy. He was forced to retreat back to Syria, humiliated and weakened. This demonstrates that when heaven ordains your peace, even the storms will rise to fight on your behalf.